My mission: seduce and destroy the world's most dangerous arms dealer. But when my employers betrayed me, I had to choose: die with my target, or run with him. The sting of Monte Carlo still clung to Rhea Maris like cheap perfume. Not the failure. The extraction had been messy, a bodyguard's unexpected loyalty forcing a hasty retreat via service elevator and a frigid swim in the harbor. But the aftermath. The money was safe, laundered through layers of shell companies, but the quiet felt suffocating. She'd holed up in a nondescript villa overlooking Lake Como, the Italian sun failing to warm the chill in her bones. Her alias, Sable, felt like a shroud. She craved the oblivion only permanent disappearance could offer, a chance to bury the ghost of a mistake made years ago, a ghost that whispered her real name in the dark. The knock on the villa door was precise, impersonal. Rhea's hand instinctively drifted towards the ceramic knife taped beneath the table before she schooled her features into bored indifference. The woman who entered was a study in unassuming power, Martha Finch. Mid-50s, steel-gray hair in a severe bun, eyes the color of flint behind rimless glasses. She carried no visible weapon, only a slim briefcase that screamed authority. "The collective sends its regards, Sable," Finch stated, dispensing with pleasantries. Her voice was cool, clipped. Rhea gestured to a chair, her posture radiating weary disinterest. "The collective knows where to send the condolence card. I'm retired." Finch smiled thinly. "Retirement is a luxury, Ms. Maris, especially for someone with your unique skill set and your unique burden." She placed the briefcase on the table, clicking it open to reveal not money, but a single dossier. Damien Blackwell. The name sent a jolt through Rhea, quickly masked. Blackwell wasn't just an arms dealer, he was a phantom, a rumor traded in the darkest corners. He dealt in nightmares made manifest. "Project Chimera," Finch continued, tapping the dossier. "Portable EMP devices. Elegant, devastating. Capable of plunging a city, perhaps a small nation, into the dark ages. Blackwell is brokering its sale. Multiple buyers. Unknown timetable." She leaned forward, the flint in her eyes hardening. "The collective wants the buyer list, the full technical specifications, and Damien Blackwell, neutralized." Rhea scoffed. "Neutralized? You want a ghost erased? Find a witch doctor." "The payment," Finch said, ignoring the sarcasm, "is enough to make you truly vanish. New face, new history, deep enough to drown that particular ghost from your past. Forever." She slid a single, impossibly clear photograph across the table. A younger Rhea, raw anguish etched onto her face, standing beside a fresh grave under a leaden sky. The sight was a physical blow. Mistake. Consequence. The ghost had a name, and Martha Finch knew it. Rhea's carefully constructed indifference shattered. She met Finch's gaze, the air crackling. Details. Zurich hummed with discreet wealth. The auction house, nestled in the shadow of ancient banking giants, was a temple of polished marble and hushed reverence. Damien Blackwell didn't enter. He occupied. He stood near a towering expressionist canvas, a study in controlled power. Late 30s, dark hair swept back, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that cost more than most cars. He wasn't conventionally handsome. A faint scar traced his jawline, his nose slightly crooked, but he radiated an intense magnetism. His eyes, a startlingly pale gray, missed nothing, calmly cataloging the room, the people, the potential threats. He spoke softly to an aide, his voice a low, resonant rumble that commanded attention without volume. Across the room, Isabella Rossi adjusted the strap of her emerald green gown. The collective's forgeries were impeccable: disillusioned Italian heiress, minor title, significant inheritance recently unfrozen, a penchant for adrenaline, and the finer things that boredom couldn't satisfy. Rhea had woven the persona with meticulous care, the slight weariness around the eyes, the restless energy beneath the polished surface. She held a flute of champagne, her gaze seemingly drifting over the art, but her focus was laser-locked on Blackwell. His security detail was minimal, professional, almost invisible. He moved with the confidence of a man who knew his environment was secure. The accident was a masterpiece of subtlety. As Blackwell turned to examine a delicate Ming vase displayed on a plinth, a waiter, collective muscle disguised with impeccable training, stumbled. Not towards Blackwell, but towards a heavy, freestanding sculpture nearby. A seemingly genuine trip, a flailing arm catching the sculpture's edge. It began to teeter, slow, inevitable, directly towards Blackwell's unprotected back. Gasps rippled through the nearby crowd. Blackwell's head started to turn, his body tensing, but too slow. Isabella was already moving. Not a frantic dash, but a swift, decisive glide. She interposed herself between Blackwell and the falling marble, one hand shoving him firmly but safely aside, the other bracing against the sculpture's cold weight, redirecting its fall with a grunt of effort. It crashed harmlessly onto the thick carpet, missing them by inches. Silence descended, broken only by the waiter's frantic apologies. Blackwell steadied himself, his pale eyes fixed on Isabella. There was no shock, only intense appraisal. He saw the controlled strength in her movement, the lack of panic, the sharp intelligence in her dark eyes as she brushed imaginary dust from her gown. "Signorina Rossi," he murmured, his voice smooth as aged whiskey, extending a hand. "It seems I owe you a considerable debt, and a new sculpture for the house." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Damien Blackwell. The dance had begun. It was a tango played on a knife edge. Blackwell was no easy mark. The initial gratitude quickly morphed into a relentless series of tests. A dinner invitation to a restaurant known for its treacherous politics, where veiled insults flew like shrapnel. Isabella parried with wit as sharp as her stiletto heels, her laughter genuine, her observations cuttingly accurate. He changed plans abruptly, a midnight flight to his compound in Corsica instead of the promised gallery opening. She adapted seamlessly, feigning delighted spontaneity. He exposed her to calculated risks, a high-speed drive along treacherous coastal roads, a chance encounter with a volatile competitor. She navigated each with apparent fearless relish, her confidence in her Isabella persona growing, yet the constant vigilance was exhausting. The setting shifted to the Chimera, Blackwell's fortress disguised as a superyacht. It cut through the Mediterranean like a blade, all sleek lines and impenetrable security. Here, the seduction deepened. Over shared midnight cognac on the vast aft deck, stars blazing overhead, the mask slipped fractionally. He quoted obscure Persian poetry, his voice softening with genuine appreciation. She countered with Italian sonnets, fabricating a tragic romance that mirrored the disillusionment of her cover. He spoke of the corrosive nature of power, a weariness beneath the ruthlessness she hadn't anticipated. She witnessed his fierce, almost paternal protectiveness towards Sergei, his aging chief engineer, barking at a junior crew member who dared question the old man's authority. The chemistry was undeniable, a dangerous current crackling between them. His touch, guiding her on the dance floor under the moonlight, sent unwelcome shivers down Rhea's spine. His laughter, rare and genuine, disarmed her. During a shared cigar in his study, surrounded by first editions and lethal-looking artifacts, she glimpsed fragments. A heavily encrypted file briefly visible on a secondary monitor, a hushed conversation cut short as she entered. Singapore exchange confirmed, the specs for the primary device. She stored it all, the professional con artist cataloging intel, while Rhea Maris felt a treacherous flicker of something else, enjoyment. Enjoyment of his company. It was a perilous indulgence, a crack in her own formidable facade. The Mediterranean sun beat down, the yacht a gilded cage. Isabella Rossi was winning, Damien Blackwell was captivated. And Rhea Maris felt the first, cold trickle of doubt seep into her carefully constructed world. Singapore was a fever dream of glass, steel, and relentless humidity. The meet was set in the penthouse suite of the Marina Bay Sands, a glittering pinnacle offering dizzying views of the city-state's engineered sprawl. The buyer was anonymous, represented by a man with eyes like chips of obsidian and an air of absolute zero, Mr. Kaido. The atmosphere crackled with unspoken tension and the vast sums of money changing hands. Project Chimera, sleek and malevolent in its presentation case, lay on a table between them, humming faintly with contained power. Rhea, as Isabella, played her role flawlessly. She was the captivating distraction, engaging Kaito's dour lieutenant in fluent Japanese about the city's architectural marvels, her laughter like chimes, her hand resting lightly on Blackwell's arm, a picture of devoted, dangerous glamour. Her mind, however, was a vault, processing every micro-expression, every coded phrase. Blackwell was tense, a coiled spring beneath his urbane exterior. This was the culmination. Her moment came as Blackwell and Kaito stepped onto the private terrace to finalize terms, leaving the Chimera prototype momentarily unattended beside his open briefcase containing the primary encrypted drive, the Rosetta Stone to the buyer list and full specs. Security was tight, eyes everywhere, but Rhea had spent weeks learning the rhythms of Blackwell's team, identifying the microblind spots. A dropped napkin, a subtle feigned stumble towards the table, her hand brushing the briefcase, her lockpicks, disguised as hairpins, were a phantom extension of her fingers. The drive's encryption was formidable, but she'd studied its model, she knew its Achilles heel. Milliseconds stretched into eternity. Almost there, the world exploded, not figuratively. Glass walls shattered inwards with a deafening roar. Concussive blasts through bodies like rag dolls. Automatic gunfire ripped through the opulent space, shredding silk curtains and priceless furniture. Smoke grenades billowed acrid clouds. Chaos, absolute and brutal, descended. Rostov's men, brutal, efficient killers, poured through the breached walls. Staged? The thought screamed through Rhea's shock. But this is real, too real. Instinct, honed in 100 back alleys and deadly escapes, overrode Isabella Rossi. She saw the trajectory of a grenade, lobbed towards the terrace where Blackwell stood momentarily stunned, silhouetted against the flaming skyline. No conscious thought, only pure, desperate reflex. She launched herself, not away but towards him, tackling him with all her strength just as the grenade detonated against the reinforced glass where he'd stood. The blast wave hammered them, showering them with debris. Pain lanced through her shoulder, hot and sharp. She rolled, pulling him behind the relative cover of a shattered marble bar counter, her movements fluid, economical, combative. Blackwell stared at her, blood trickling from a cut on his temple, smoke stinging his pale eyes. Not confusion, not gratitude. Grim, dawning comprehension. The facade of Isabella Rossi lay in tatters, shattered like the penthouse glass. He'd seen her move. Rostov's men advanced, methodical, relentless. They were trapped, backs against the ruined bar, the only exit a hallway choked with smoke and gunfire. Blackwell's security detail was down or engaged elsewhere. He pressed a hand to a bleeding wound on his side, his breathing ragged but his gaze locked on Rhea. "Time's up, Isabella," he rasped, his voice raw but steady. "Or should I say, Rhea Maris? Sable?" He saw the shock freeze her features. "Zurich, the sculpture. You used the Venetian slide on the waiter's security pin when you stumbled near him earlier. Very distinctive, very you." A humorless smile touched his bloodied lips. "I've followed your work, admired it even. Knew you were collective the moment you saved me, kept you close. Fed Finch exactly what I wanted her to know, traced her through you. Betrayal, cold and vicious, washed over Rhea. Betrayed by Martha, who'd sacrificed her pawn to force this chaos and Blackwell's death. Betrayed by her own signature move. The con had been on her from the start." The world tilted. Blackwell gestured towards the advancing mercenaries, their weapons raised. "Choice is simple, Sable. Die here with Rostov's butchers." He locked eyes with her, the intensity almost physical. "Or run, with me." Survival screamed louder than pride, louder than the gunfire. The ghost of her past mistake loomed large. She met his gaze, the mask completely gone, revealing the fierce, calculating survivor beneath. "Move!" she snapped, grabbing his arm. "Left corridor, now!" Singapore dissolved into a frantic, neon-drenched nightmare. They became ghosts haunting the city's underbelly, hunted by Rostov's relentless mercenaries. Interpol tipped off anonymously, no doubt by Finch, and now the collective's own cleanup crews, furious at her survival and exposure. Their dynamic was explosive, a volatile cocktail of raw anger, desperate need, and the searing intimacy of shared peril. "You used me," Rhea hissed, pressing a makeshift bandage to the graze on Blackwell's side in the claustrophobic back room of a smuggler's den in Kowloon. The air reeked of dried fish and desperation. "You were sent to kill me," he shot back, wincing but not pulling away. His eyes burned. "Or steal from me and then kill me. Don't lecture me on usage, Sable." Yet they needed each other with a brutal, undeniable urgency. Her evasion skills were artistry, blending into crowds, exploiting urban labyrinths, disabling trackers with scavenged parts. His resources, though strained, were deep, hidden caches, underworld contacts accessed through burner phones and coded messages, safe houses that stank of mildew but offered precious hours of respite. His knowledge of the players was encyclopedic. Arguments erupted like gunfire. In a stolen delivery van weaving through Istanbul's chaotic streets, he accused her of planning to sell him out at the first opportunity. She spat back that his arrogance had gotten them into this mess. The tension was a living thing, thick with unacknowledged attraction that flared in stolen glances and accidental touches in close quarters. They dodged death by inches. Rostov's thugs cornered them in a sprawling, chaotic Kowloon night market. Rhea led a frantic chase over steaming food stalls and through hanging racks of counterfeit goods, using the crowd and neon glare as a shield, Blackwell covering their retreat with brutal efficiency, disarming one pursuer with a vicious twist of his wrist. In Istanbul, an Interpol raid, led by a man whose stern features bore an unsettling resemblance to Blackwell's, Eris Blackwell, she realized with a jolt, stormed a dockside warehouse moments after they slipped out a rusted sewer grate. The familial tension hung heavy in Eris's cold, professional gaze as he scanned the chaos, unknowingly locking eyes with his brother across the smoke-filled ruin. In the sun-drenched Greek Isles, a collective hit squad, sleek and professional, almost pinned them on a cliffside path. Only Rhea's quick thinking, triggering a rock slide with a well-placed kick, bought them escape into the azure sea. Shared near death forged a reluctant, pragmatic alliance. The constant adrenaline stripped away layers of their carefully constructed personas. Rhea witnessed Damien's strategic genius firsthand, his ability to anticipate enemy moves, his intricate planning under pressure. She saw flashes of unexpected honor, diverting their pursuers away from a crowded street festival in Istanbul, refusing to use civilians as shields despite the risk. He saw her resilience, pushing through pain, exhaustion, and fear with steely determination. He saw her quick, ingenious mind devising escapes from impossible situations. He saw the vulnerability she buried deep, the flicker of fear in her eyes not for herself, but for him when a bullet came too close in Singapore. Hiding in the echoing, cold silence of an abandoned monastery high in the Pelion Mountains, the weight of their flight pressed down. Rain lashed against the broken stained glass windows. Exhausted, wounded, the facade finally crumbled completely. "Why conning?" Damien asked abruptly, his voice rough in the vast quiet. He was cleaning his gun, a methodical ritual. "Someone with your skills, intelligence work, private security." Rhea stared into the small fire they'd risked. The ghost of her past mistake hovered. "I was good at lying, too good." Her voice was flat. "I conned the wrong man once. He didn't lose money. He lost everything. His reputation, his family." He walked into the sea. She wouldn't look at him. "The collective found me after, offered structure, control, a way to use the talent without that." The unspoken guilt hung heavy. Damien was silent for a long moment. Then, softly, "Mine was a mentor, Elijah Hale. Taught me everything, built the foundation of what I am." He paused, the memory bitter. "He sold me out, set me up for a fall that would have buried me, took everything I'd built, everyone I trusted, left me with nothing but the lesson: trust is the ultimate vulnerability. The only thing real is power, control." He looked at her, the firelight reflecting in his pale eyes. "That's the foundation of this," he gestured vaguely, encompassing their hunted existence. The line between the con and reality, between Isabella and Rhea, Damien the mark and Damien the man, blurred and then dissolved. The raw honesty in the desolate sanctuary was terrifyingly real. The attraction, simmering beneath anger and betrayal, surged. Driven by exhaustion, adrenaline, and the terrifying vulnerability of shared truth, the space between them vanished. He cupped her face, his thumb brushing a smear of dirt from her cheek. She didn't pull away. Their kiss wasn't gentle. It was desperate, fierce, a collision of need and confusion. Was it manipulation, survival instinct, or something terrifyingly genuine? When they broke apart, breathing ragged, neither had an answer. The world outside the monastery walls felt infinitely more dangerous. The fragile truce shattered like glass. Martha Finch, cornered and furious that her pawns were not only alive but potentially turning against the board, activated scorched earth. With surgical precision, she leaked Rhea's true identity, her past, her connection to Blackwell, and fabricated evidence framing her for his most heinous crimes, including the Singapore massacre, directly to Interpol and Rostov. The heat became unbearable. Rostov, already enraged by Blackwell's escape, now had a personal vendetta against Sable. Interpol, spearheaded by the increasingly conflicted heiress Blackwell, issued a global red notice. Rhea Maris became the world's most wanted woman. Eris, tracking their desperate trail across North Africa, received the damning file on Rhea. He saw the grainy photos, the fabricated financial trails linking her to atrocities. Yet, he also saw the intelligence reports from Singapore. Inconsistencies, evidence suggesting Rostov's involvement, whispers of a third player. He saw the raw determination in his brother's coded messages to old, trusted contacts, messages that spoke of exposure, not profit. And he saw the haunted look in the eyes of the woman in the surveillance photos. Not a monster, but a fugitive clinging to life. Duty warred with doubt, with the chilling realization that the woman he was hunting might be the only key to saving his brother from the abyss. He adjusted his course, the weight of his badge suddenly heavy. Tangier was a maze of whitewashed walls, cobalt doorways, and secrets whispered in shadowed alleys. The ancient Medina offered temporary refuge, its chaotic energy a cloak. But the net was closing. Rostov's men, fueled by vengeance and Finch's pinpoint leaks, scoured the city. Interpol cordons tightened. The collective's hunters, coldly efficient, triangulated their position. They were cornered rats in a beautiful, suffocating trap. Huddled in a rooftop hovel overlooking the tangled streets, Damien's face was gaunt, etched with pain and fatigue, but his eyes held a fierce, new intensity. He pulled Rhea close, his voice barely a whisper over the distant calls to prayer. "Project Chimera. It was never the real prize, Rhea. It was bait." Rhea stared at him. "Bait?" "To lure the collective," he explained, urgency sharpening his tone. "Finch got greedy, wanted Chimera and my elimination. She overplayed. While you were charming me, I was tracing her. I have it, Rhea. Evidence, years of it. The collective isn't just brokers, they orchestrate conflicts. They manipulate markets, destabilize regions, profit from chaos on a scale that makes Chimera look like a firecracker. Arms, deals, coups, assassinations, all meticulously documented. Bank records, encrypted communications, blackmail files. He tapped a cheap, disposable phone. "It's all here, ready to transmit. But I need to reach a specific, secure data drop point. One transmission, and Finch and her entire rotten edifice come crashing down. The world sees the puppeteers. Hope, desperate and fragile, flared in Rhea's chest. This was bigger than disappearing. This was burning down the machine that had created them both. Where? He named a location deep within the Medina, a centuries-old bathhouse with hidden digital infrastructure, a relic repurposed by the paranoid wealthy. There's an escape route too, he added, his gaze holding hers. A fishing boat, prepped, leaves in 90 minutes. We blow the whistle, then vanish. Truly vanish. He gripped her arm. Together. But Rostov and the collective converged before they could move. The trap sprang in the sun-drenched central square. Chaos erupted. Rostov's mercenaries pouring from alleys, collective agents moving with lethal precision from rooftops, panicked crowds scattering. Interpol sirens wailed in the distance. Damien and Rhea fought back to back, a desperate dance of survival amidst the staccato gunfire and crumbling plaster. They carved a bloody path towards the bathhouse entrance, Damien taking a bullet high in the shoulder, Rhea's knuckles split and bleeding. They reached a narrow side alley leading directly to the bathhouse door, the final stretch. But Rostov himself, a bear of a man with a face like ruined meat, blocked the alley's far end, flanked by his most brutal enforcers. They opened fire, pinning Damien and Rhea behind a fruit cart. The escape route Damien had secured, a rusted door leading down to the harbor, was behind them, 10 meters back down the alley they'd just fought through. Rostov's main force was focused ahead, cutting them off from the data drop. Time slowed. Rhea saw the grim resolve on Damien's face as he prepared to charge Rostov, a suicidal move. She saw the escape door, freedom beckoning. She saw Martha Finch's cold smile in her mind's eye. The ghost of her past mistake screamed for oblivion. But another face surfaced. Damien's, in the monastery firelight, the unexpected honor, the shared pain. No more ghosts. In a split second, Rhea made her choice. She didn't run for the escape door. She grabbed Damien's good shoulder, spinning him towards it. Go, transmit it. Before he could react, she shoved him hard towards the rusted door, then turned and sprinted towards Rostov's position, firing wildly, screaming insults in Russian she'd picked up. She was a diversion, a blazing, sacrificial target. Bullets tore into the stone around her. One grazed her thigh, a hot poker of pain. She stumbled, firing back, drawing the enraged Rostov and his men away from the alley Damien had vanished down. She saw Rostov's furious snarl, saw his weapon rise. This was it. She hoped Damien made it. Make it count. Believing Rhea was dead or captured, a rage colder than anything he'd ever known consumed Damien Blackwell. Grief was a luxury. He transmitted the data package from the humid darkness of the bathhouse vault, the confirmation light blinking green. Then, fueled by pure incandescent fury, he turned back. He found Rostov in a secluded courtyard, barking orders to find the woman. The final confrontation was brutal, primal. 2 wounded predators. No guns left, just knives, fists, and hatred. Damien fought with the terrifying efficiency of a man with nothing left to lose, his injured shoulder a fiery agony he ignored. He exploited Rostov's rage, his bulk, luring him onto slick tiles. It ended with Damien driving his blade deep, Rostov's roar dying in a gurgle as he slumped into the murky water of an ancient fountain. Damien stood over him, breathing raggedly, blood soaking his shirt, the world tilting. Rhea hadn't died. Bleeding, dizzy, she'd used the chaos caused by her diversion and the converging Interpol forces to slip away, collapsing into a shadowed alcove near the Medina's edge. As she struggled to bind her leg wound, a figure stepped into the alley entrance, silhouetted against the harsh sunlight. Martha Finch. Impeccable as ever, a small, efficient pistol held loosely at her side. Cold satisfaction radiated from her. "Resilient, I'll give you that, Sable," Finch said, her voice devoid of warmth. "Pity, you could have been magnificent. Cleanup is so tedious." Rhea pushed herself up against the wall, pain lancing through her. Fear threatened to choke her, but then she remembered the green light blinking in the bathhouse vault. He did it. She summoned every ounce of her con artistry, the power that had built Isabella Rossi. She met Finch's gaze, a slow, dangerous smile spreading across her bruised face. "Tedious, Martha? Or terminal?" Rhea's voice was hoarse but strong. "For you." She held up her empty hand as if clutching something vital. "Did you really think Damien would send all his evidence to one drop? He gave me the failsafe. The real motherlode. Bank codes, voice recordings, your direct orders for the Belgrade operation." She spun the lie with conviction, weaving fragments of truth she'd gleaned. "It's already primed to broadcast to every major news outlet, Interpol server, and your collective superiors the moment my heartbeat stops. Or," she paused, letting the threat hang, "the moment I don't transmit a very specific all-clear code in the next 5 minutes. Call off the hits. On Damien. On me. Stand down. Or burn with him." Finch's composure cracked. Uncertainty flickered in her flinty eyes. The sheer audacity of the bluff, delivered with Sable's unwavering conviction, struck a nerve. She hesitated, the pistol wavering slightly. That hesitation was all heiress Blackwell needed. He materialized from a side alley, flanked by Interpol agents, his own weapon trained on Finch. "Martha Finch," Eris stated, his voice cold steel. "You're under arrest. Conspiracy, arms trafficking, accessory to murder." He looked past her to Rhea, seeing the blood, the desperation, the fierce defiance. "She's telling the truth about the evidence, Finch. We intercepted Blackwell's transmission. It's over. Stand down." He didn't lower his weapon. "Where is he, Miss Maris?" Rhea met Eris's gaze, pleading silently. "Bathhouse. Rostov's dead. Damien's hurt. He needs help. Please." He was trying to stop them. All of them. She sagged against the wall, the adrenaline ebbing. "The data, it's real. It exposes everything." Eris looked from the captured Finch, sputtering with rage, to the wounded woman who'd sacrificed herself for his brother. He saw the bigger picture now, the monstrous scale of the collective's operations laid bare in the intercepted data. He made his choice. "Medic! Now!" he barked to his team, gesturing to Rhea. Then to another agent. "Secure her." He turned, his face set. "Move on the bathhouse. Apprehend Damien Blackwell, alive." The bathhouse courtyard was a tableau of aftermath. Rostov's body lay in the fountain. Damien sat slumped against a blood-smeared pillar, barely conscious, his face ashen, his breathing shallow. Eris entered, weapon holstered, followed by medics. Their eyes met, brothers bound by blood and fractured by choices. "It's done, Damien," Eris said quietly, kneeling beside him as medics moved in. "Finch is in custody. The data, it's out. The collective is finished." Damien's gaze scanned the courtyard, frantic. "Rhea?" "She's alive," Eris said. "Hurt, but alive. She bought you the time." He paused, the weight of his duty pressing down. "You know how this works. The evidence buys leverage, not absolution. Full cooperation, names, structures, every dirty secret. Witness protection, new identities. For both of you, and you testify." Damien closed his eyes, a wave of pain and relief washing over him. "Deal," he rasped. Months bled into a fragile peace. The collective's empire crumbled under the weight of scandal, indictments raining down on its shadowy leaders. Martha Finch faced a lifetime buried in a concrete tomb. Physical wounds knitted slowly, the deeper scars of betrayal, violence, and a life built on lies took longer. They were ghosts themselves now, under new names, in an undisclosed location where the turquoise sea met an endless stretch of white sand. Dawn painted the sky in soft pastels. They sat on the veranda of a simple villa, the silence filled only by the sigh of the waves. Trust was a delicate, nascent thing, tested by every unexpected sound, every unspoken memory of deception. Could two people forged in falsehood ever build something real? Could the paranoia ever truly fade? Damien watched Rhea as she stared at the horizon, the dawn light catching the gold in her brown eyes. The tension of the past month still lingered in her shoulders. He reached across the small table, his hand covering hers, a tentative bridge across the chasm of their past. Not a promise, but a question. Rhea looked down at his hand, then up at his face. The familiar features now softened by something unfamiliar. Uncertainty, hope. The con was over. The ghosts, for now, were silent. She didn't pull away. She turned her hand beneath his, lacing her fingers with his. The future was a vast, terrifying unknown. "Where do we go from here?" she asked, her voice quiet in the dawn hush. Damien looked out at the endless ocean, then back at her. The ruthless dealer, the phantom, the man who trusted no one, had no easy answer. He only knew he didn't want to face that horizon alone. He squeezed her hand gently. "I don't know," he admitted, the raw honesty echoing their moment in the monastery. "But we go together." The lie had brought them to the edge of the abyss. The terrifying, fragile truth was the ground they now stood on, together, facing the uncertain sunrise. Enjoyed the story? Like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss the next one.